Welcome to Creative Clarity, Season 2 of the original podcast, Intentional Harmony. Season 2 is all about talking with some of the most creative minds I can get my hands on. These people have two things in common. They're passionate about what they do, and they love to create. From writers, to musicians, to artists, to business entrepreneurs, you're going to learn a ton. My name is Katie Warren, and I'm a creativity coach who helps entrepreneurs stop playing small and start living the life that they love through their creative gifts. Are you stuck in your 9-to-5 job? Maybe feeling like you're not good enough to make a living off of your creative gift? You're looking for more? Maybe even wondering how you can start your own business in a creative industry? Then you are in the right place, my friend. You're going to hear me cover topics all about understanding and improving the creative process. You're also going to hear interviews from amazing creative minds, learning what makes them tick, how they overcome creative blocks, how to generate new ideas, and how to get inspired. Sit back, grab some coffee, and let's get to it. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Intentional Harmony Creative Clarity. This episode is going to be amazing. We are talking to Laura. She is an e-commerce consultant and the founder of eCommerce and FBA Boss Babes, a fast-growing community of female entrepreneurs in e-commerce. She specializes in helping businesses build 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses selling their products on Amazon. I really wanted to get her on, and especially in this climate, businesses have really had to pivot and start selling online. Now, whether you have products to actually sell or if you're just selling services, I still think you're going to get a lot out of this. She touches on a perspective from business, but also from a personal growth perspective as well. And she's got a lot of amazing insights and tips to share with you guys today. So many that I think we're going to actually have her on a second time so she can really dig into the e-commerce further. I hope you guys enjoy Laura. She's all the way in Germany, and I'm just so grateful she took the time to come on here and chat with us.
Really, people are waiting for your designs to be out there. They can't wait to have that in their room, on their mug, to make them happy to smile at it, you know?
Totally.
Bring that gift to the person that's waiting for it already.
Where did it all start? Kind of take me back to the beginning.
Well, I used to live in Asia, in Singapore, many years ago. Well, 8 years ago. And I did start a e-commerce brand. It didn't really work well. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And then I did spend some time in Bali. And there I used to go to like some ecstatic dance kind of event. And there I met a guy, and I mean, he looked like he never even had seen like a computer. He looked really like ultra hippie. And then we all had dinner. We were like a group. And then I found out that this guy, he was selling yoga mats on Amazon and was making a 7-figure business. So that was back in 2014.
Yeah.
And it totally got me hooked because I was like, what? Like this guy, he's making 7 figures selling Amazon, like yoga mats on Amazon. How? And that's when I really got interested in the topic and really dug deep in it.
Yeah.
And a few years have passed since then. I ended up working for Amazon directly. I ended up being a coach there for them. And yeah, I really got obsessed, but that was the first time I got to know about this whole thing.
Interesting. So what did you initially start out doing with e-commerce? What were you selling?
My very first product I was selling was like pacifier necklaces kind of thing.
Sure.
It's like for the babies, and they're like with different names. So it was like a customized product.
Okay.
I was selling through Facebook and my own website. It was my first e-commerce business ever, and that was 2012. I had a baby, so as a typical mom, I went into the baby products. But that didn't work out well. So that when I said, okay, I need to figure this truly out. How does this work? And it took me a few years, but then I did.
Took you a few years, yeah. So what are you doing with e-commerce now? Are you mostly just like coaching people and helping them sell their things, or are you still selling things yourself as well?
So in the time between, I was mostly consulting and doing coaching because that took like an immense time. I didn't have the energy to do my own anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed this year. So I'm launching multiple products.
Oh, wow.
With a group of women that I have guided and helped them to launch. Because I thought over the years, actually, I always thought like, damn, I have so many businesses launch their products. Might as well do my own products. And somehow always procrastinated. It's like, oh, I have so many projects going on. I'm like, oh, I can't handle my own now as well. And then this year I said, okay, no, I'm just going to do it. And yeah.
So what was like the biggest struggle for you initially when you were starting your business?
From an e-commerce perspective or just like an overall?
It could be either. What comes to mind first?
I think the biggest struggle was not knowing what to really focus on and having a lot of this busy work going on and not really doing things that were getting any results. So I was feeling like I was doing all the work and I was working so many hours, but really I wasn't getting that many results. And I think that was one of the biggest struggles because I didn't really know what to focus on. And because I didn't know, I was like mostly focusing on planning things out and branding.
Yeah, we call that like spray and pray. Like you just try a bunch of things and cross your fingers that something works.
Exactly. That usually doesn't work.
No, it usually doesn't. But some reason that's like our first go-to to try.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when you started and you were like building your audience base, talk about like how that process went as you were building your audience. Like what kind of things did you try to do to grow that base?
Well, I mean, my audience, that part, I only started 3-4 months ago, really.
Oh, wow. So you have massive growth then.
Yeah, we are almost at 10,000 now. Yeah, it's grown a lot. Before that, I only worked with the corporate clients. So that was my my thing. And then when Corona hit and things had changed so much and e-commerce exploded. And I was a lot on Facebook because I was spending time a lot at home, of course, like everyone else. And I saw that so many people were looking for things to do. And I don't know, I always felt over the years that there were so many male-owned businesses in e-commerce, and most of them were not. Like, I didn't see that many women around. And that's why I said, okay, I'm just going to do this for women. And I think it was really needed because I got like this huge response. I didn't really expect it. So how did I build it? Just recently. And I built it through being available in other communities too. So mostly through Facebook. That's how I built it up.
That's awesome. So Facebook is your main channel. Do you focus on any other social medias or do you just kind of dabble in the other ones?
No, I don't focus on any other social medias for now. I'm still doing my normal consultancy. So this is just my side thing. So I'm trying to...
So you're a busy woman.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my energy focused. So I'm right now doing Facebook mostly, but I am considering TikTok. It's really growing and I'm enjoying it. Yeah, as well.
I'm glad like you have really focused on Facebook because again, kind of like you're trying to focus on too many things in your business. We do the same thing with social media and we feel like we have to be on every single platform and it's just impossible to keep up with. So that's definitely helpful that you just picked one and went with it.
Yeah.
I'm curious on how you structure your day. How are you managing all of this and being pulled in different directions?
Well, I need to block schedule. Like I have to be very, really strict. I have like a day in a week where I say, okay, these are all the tasks that I need to do for the week. And this is how much time I give myself to do it. And I don't give myself more time. If I can't finish it. I can't finish it. If it's not my best work, it's not my best work. Otherwise, it's not going to ever get done and nothing gets done. So yeah, I have to be really strict with myself to, so block scheduling works with me because I'm a bit of a chaotic mind. Otherwise, I'm like ADD and otherwise I'm like, I have my 50 tabs open. I'm like, yeah, and here's stuff and there's stuff. So I need to it's either full in or not at all. So I need
Totally.
I have my
definitely
calendar.
Yeah. Have you always been that way, or have you had to like shift your process now that you have, such a bigger following and you're growing more quickly?
No, I've only in the past few months learned to be that structured. Before that, it was a bit overwhelming, and I only found a way to be that structured because I really crashed. It was just way too much, and I was like working till 1 a.m. I'm like, how am I going to possibly ever finish this stuff? And I'm like, and then I have a new idea. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do that too. I'm like, okay, let's just put it on that pile of things that I want to do. So yeah, I had to. So I was listening to a podcast I really enjoyed, and she talked about block scheduling, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to go into it, and thinking it might just be another thing that I'm piling up on the things I want to do. And then I've noticed, no, this is really, really working. Like this works for me. And since then I'm doing it.
Totally. I love time blocking and block scheduling, same thing. And I've really found that helps as well. I tend to suggest that to a lot of my coaching clients, just because when you have a creative mind like myself and yourself and the audience, it's like, it's hard to pinpoint one thing you want to focus on at that time. So it gives you a little more structure to your day, especially if you're transitioning out of like a normal work 9 to 5 day and you're working on your own. That structure tends to get lost when you make that shift. So that is really helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And somehow needed, because there are like so many ideas otherwise that come in, and I would just spend time on new ideas. And then once you get new ideas, it's like they get new babies. And then it's like this new idea comes from that. And otherwise it's just idea piling up ideas. Yeah.
Just chaos, idea chaos.
Yeah.
When you're getting a new idea, what do you do? Do you like have to write it down? Like, what is your process when you get a brand new idea? Or do you have one?
I have to write it down. So I have like all these different notebooks, and I write things down. Yeah. Otherwise, it's gone again. I don't know if you have ever read the book. How is it called? Big Magic.
Yes, I love that book.
Oh, it's so good. And she talked about it, that ideas sometimes just visit us, and then if we don't claim it, it's going to go to someone else. And I found that so interesting. I'm like, yeah, it sometimes feels like that. I had like this big idea, and then a few weeks afterwards, I don't even remember what that big idea was.
Totally. She's got this theory of like it. If you don't catch on to it, it goes on to the next person, and it's meant for them instead. What she talked about, like a poet, and every time she gets an idea, she has to like run into her piece of paper and write it down, and maybe she can catch it by the tail, and then if she misses it, it's just gone.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, definitely. So with, again, kind of like with structuring your day and your busy schedule, do you have a morning routine and a night routine? Do you take time to like do certain things every single morning or every night?
No, I'm not that I'm consistent with that. So I've tried like Miracle Morning and all these different morning routines that I have found over the years, but I always found myself doing them for a few days and then not doing them again. So right now I don't have like a real good morning routine or evening routine. In the evening, I try to write down a few things that I want to have ready for the next day.
Yeah.
But other than that, nothing.
Yeah, I feel like it's 50-50 to people who I ask. They're like, I like have to have a morning routine, and others it's like sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So I'm always just curious to see if you do have one. Yeah.
I would love to be a person that has one. And I think at some point I will become one that is going to have the morning routine, but I still haven't figured out the one that really fits me. I feel that sometimes there are these morning routines out there and they are someone else's morning routine, and then we try to adapt them and then it doesn't really work, and then we fall off the wagon and then we feel guilty, but actually it didn't really fit us in the first place. So yeah. I'm figuring out what is going to be my routine.
Definitely, definitely. And you have a little one too, so that definitely will evolve as that goes as well. You're kind of on their schedule now.
Yeah, true. True. Do you have a morning routine?
I do, yeah. So I hadn't always had one. I started it probably, I would say almost a year ago now. But it was the same thing. I was like reading all of these things about how to have a proper morning routine, and nothing really felt right. I was like almost dreading it when I woke up, like, oh God, I have a to-do list for my morning. It sucks. And then little by little, I started tweaking it, and I've definitely made it my own now. But I wake up really early in the morning, and I spend a lot of time just kind of being present, and I do a little bit of meditation and a little bit of journaling. And I've realized over time it helps my work day. It just calms that stress down before I have time to like think about my agenda for the rest of the day.
I think meditation is like a real big thing. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, it's helpful. It just calms all of those anxious thoughts. And I feel I don't always feel like meditating, but I'm always glad I did it afterwards, you know?
Yeah. I'm always good when I do meditation, but I somehow never get myself to do it. So very rarely I do. And then I do like 5 to 10 minutes, just sitting still.
Yeah.
And trying to just be my body. That's what I try to do. And I find like afterwards, I feel really, really good. And the days I have really great days afterwards. So I actually should do it every day. But somehow I still don't. So yeah.
I don't know if I could really meditate for like 40 minutes to an hour at a time. I know some people are like so adamant that's the way to go, but I think like you said, 5 to 10 minutes, I feel like that's the perfect window. At least for myself, you know, that sweet spot.
Yeah, I think so. It feels good. Maybe at some point there's going to be more, but not yet.
Yeah, we'll work up to it.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different things, right? So you should do meditation, you maybe some yoga, then cold showers and this and that. I mean, there's like a list of things that entrepreneurs can do to optimize their life. And I guess sometimes it's just about choosing just a couple and say, okay, these are the ones that are good for me, and that's what I will do.
Definitely. Yeah, you definitely have to make it your own. Otherwise, like you said, you're living someone else's routine, and that does not feel good. It doesn't feel aligned at all.
Yeah. And it might not help either, because we all have different brains and different way of thinking. So what maybe suits someone else's might really get someone else annoyed and not really great for the day. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. When it comes to personal development, how have you felt like you've grown since you've started your business versus like where you're at right now? And like, what are some things that you're kind of doing in that space?
Yeah, I feel like I've grown a lot through having a business. Like it has been like a big part. And through relationships. I find like relationships and businesses are two components that really grow you a lot and can be big mirrors. Like they can show you some shadows, and they can show you really some sides that sometimes are really uncomfortable. Like when it comes to consistency or discipline or self-care sometimes, integrity with oneself, boundaries. Boundaries has always been a really big one for me, for example. I learned it a lot through my business. I keep doing courses, and I always have a coach. I always do mindset work, and I always read books as well. I think it's going to be until the day that I don't exist anymore. I will always continue growing. And it's interesting, every time I feel like, I have learned something so new. I see the world so differently now. And then a year later, I'm like, oh, wow. It's funny how I felt about it last year. I actually have now much more clarity about it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Looking back in hindsight, it's like, oh my gosh, had I known 12 months ago that I could be doing this, it changes everything.
Absolutely.
I love
It's
that
like,
you said business and relationships are like a mirror to yourself. I've never heard that analogy before, but that's so true.
mm-hmm.
So true.
Yeah. Yeah, they take you out of your comfort zone um, a lot.
Yeah.
Um, in good ways and in bad ways. I mean, in good ways because I find like you want to have a business or a relationship that is not going to let you be mediocre. You know, you want to be your full potential, and to reach that full potential, sometimes you need to just do the things. So
Yeah.
um, with my husband, I'm always very thankful because he doesn't let me be mediocre. He's like, Laura, you told yourself you want to do this. Why are you not doing it now? So go get your lazy butt and do it. And I'm like, oh, at that moment, I'm like, oh, this is not nice at all. I'm like totally grumpy. And then afterwards, I'm like, yeah, actually, he's so right. And I'm so grateful because I used to always select people who were like, oh no, oh yeah, just take some rest. I'm like, yeah, you totally understand me. I need to take some rest now. And always stay in the comfort zone. Yeah.
Totally.
Um,
You need that push from that person. Definitely.
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah.
Once you start a business, you're kind of telling the universe, like, okay, show me all of my fears and like screw my life up for a little bit. Puts a spotlight on all of your insecurities and all of the things that you're not confident about. And you're kind of forced to recognize it and then start to acknowledge it and improve on it.
True. Absolutely true. I think through your business, you get to grow so much and you get to learn so much about yourself as well. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful because you can, with a business, you can grow exponentially. Not only financially, of course, that's one way, but also from a perspective of self-belief, from confidence. You can, I mean, you can have such big impact, and you have like all these different components that a business can allow you to do. I find like that's my own personal, of course, perspective on it. But I find that through a business, I can achieve a lot of those parts that I feel I need for my life to be what I want it to be. Like whenever I was in a job, I was always really miserable. I never enjoyed it.
Yeah. You're working on someone else's dream instead of your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And with your own business, I mean, it's limitless. Like you can have that, $1 million vision and you can make it happen if you put in the work. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And e-commerce, especially nowadays, like I've been with many startups, and you can see they can go from 0 to those 7 figures in a small period of time. And I think that's so fantastic, watching the possibilities that nowadays are there that even 20 years ago were not there. Like to open a retail store, for example, you would need like 50,000, 100,000 or so to have everything in place to renovate the store, to pay rent in advance, to buy the furniture, to buy all the stock in front, like all those things. It's insane. And then nowadays you could start with $5,000. You take that, you start a private label brand and start selling it on Amazon, for example. I mean,
Yeah.
how crazy is that? How has life changed? Yeah. I mean, it has never been this easy as it is today. And I think that's so cool. And I would like to open the eyes of many, like it's really so much easier than it ever has been. Yeah.
And how empowering for someone to know that they can do that,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious because you listed some different things that, you could talk about and highlight on. And I'm curious about creating brands that sell. So we have a lot of visual creatives in the audience. So photographers, painters, people who make jewelry. So there is a handful of people listening that do dabble in e-commerce to sell what they're creating. So when you're talking about brands that sell, what are some characteristics of those brands that really take off versus the ones that don't?
Mm-hmm. From a perspective of Amazon,
Yeah.
like brands that are selling on Amazon, it's always the one that can translate the value add the best. Because in the end of the day, Amazon is like a search engine. So someone types in a specific type of thing that they're looking for. So a green belt, for example. And usually what you would find that sells the best, I mean, it's not always the packaging, because packaging is not something that is going to be visible. But when the product is good and the person then ends up clicking on the product, and then they end up seeing the brand more, packaging, all sorts of images, might see a logo and all of that, that's when you can really get in and have like that trust built in. And what I have seen that works the best is, and that's everywhere in marketing, is when the customer is totally understood and there's like this emotional connection between the brand and the person buying. So they're not buying the belt because it is, I don't know, 3 inches and here and there. They're buying it because they imagine themselves wearing it with the beautiful dress, going to the party, going to that date. And those brands that are able to have that emotional aspect embedded into how the brand looks, those are the ones that do really well.
So true. So true. Yeah, that's such a good point, especially like, I mean, maybe 10, 15 years ago, you could get away with selling a product, but that having that emotional base in such an unemotional, like online world, I think that's huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the magic, because you can't talk to the person, you can't tell them how beautiful it is or so on. They can only understand your brand through the visuals that they get. That's pretty much it. So you have very little space to build that connection through images and photography.
And I assume you have to do it very quick, right? Because our attention spans are so much shorter. Like, is there something that has to do with the time you're getting that information to them?
No, because the listing is always up. So the nice thing what you can do is always you can test. I mean, in e-commerce, we always say we don't know anything until we test it. And in the end of the day, it's always the market deciding. And it can be, as a brand owner, very difficult to be unbiased, obviously, because you're going to love your brand, you're going to love how it feels, and yeah, this is great. But then in the end of the day, the market's going to tell you if that is true or not. And we find it out in a very boring way, just watching data and looking at conversion rates, and then we can really tell how the brand is really perceived by the customer, because there's just like certain numbers that need to fit, and if they're not fitting, then we can tell that there's some mismatch.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Well, let's see. I almost like don't want to wrap this up with you because I have so many things I want to talk about, but I want to touch on like your definition of creativity, because I think that's really important, because you have built such an amazing brand. You definitely have like a creative voice and a creative spark. So I'm curious, like what is creativity to you?
Oh, that's such a good question. Gosh, I think creativity is like somehow making whatever is inside of you plus outside of you, like it's sort of like baking. I don't know how to explain myself, but it's like creating. Yeah, it's making things reality in a way, either through just thoughts or writing things down, picturing it. It's sculpturing reality in a way. Yeah,
I love that. That is such
that for me is creativity.
Yeah. I love that. How did you know that when you started this business and you got into this, how did you know that it was your purpose? Did you have like a clicking moment where you're just like, yes, this is right, this is where I'm supposed to be? Or was it like gradual over time?
Oh, it took me many years to notice this. Actually, but when I did notice it, it was immediate. So I always, in the last few years, I've been thinking about how I would like to help women. And when I used to live in Singapore, I used to have like seminars for women, mompreneur seminars that I just used to organize. So I always had like this feeling that I wanted to help women, but this year I was talking to my own coach and I was just working on a funnel for my new website, and that was just all for my consultancy. It was nothing to do with e-commerce boss babes. And then she was I told her like, oh, I might want to work with women, but I'm not sure if they are going to like this or not. And she's like, Laura, close your eyes now. I'm like, okay. She's like, okay, so now your eyes are closed, tell me, who would you like to work with? Who would you like to have? And I'm like, women. She's like, okay, let's do it. Forget about the other thing, just do it. I'm like, okay. And once we went through that, it took me a few weeks where I then really got the chills. I'm like, okay, this is really what I wanted to do and what I meant to do. And then I felt like it just felt right. It somehow felt, it didn't feel like work to me. It felt like I enjoy this so much. Like I could do this all the time and for free. I mean, I could do this all the time. So at some point my boundaries got a little bit, here and there, because I was like messaging everyone and helping everyone. I'm like, oh, okay, at some point I need to, get some rest too. But that's when I noticed, I really enjoy this. So yeah, I suppose that it's some sort of what I'm meant to do, at least for now.
Yeah.
Who knows that what
year and then just dive in head first.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I always like to wrap it up before I have you tell people where they can find you and everything. I always like to have you just give a piece of advice for the audience. So it could be whatever comes to mind. It could be with creativity. It could be for e-commerce. It could be anything. But for creatives who are kind of just getting into that business, starting their career in creativity, actually making like a living from it, what piece of advice would you have for them?
Well, when I think about creatives, what often comes to mind to me is that there can be like a challenge when it comes to making money oftentimes. Like this, and I've seen that my father is a creative, he's a photographer, and there's always been like this challenge with money somehow. And I think one thing that I would love to say to creative people, and I would consider myself a creative person too, is, it's totally fine to be making great money with your creativity, because it's just an exchange of energy, really. Just because someone is really talented, it doesn't mean that you should be just, gifting your talent here, left and right. It is wonderful to make a business out of it, and it's even better to make it a profitable business. No,
I love that. Yeah, exchange of energy. That is so good.
Yeah,
I love that. Well, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on. I'd love to have you on again just to talk and really dig into e-commerce and everything. So tell the audience, if they want to really dive in and really just start their journey on selling on Amazon and getting their products out there and sold, how can they find you?
They can find me on Facebook. I have a group, it's called eCommerce and FBA Boss Babes. And that's where they can best find me. And actually, one thing that I've thought about now as well, for creatives that are really good with graphics, they could actually think about doing print on demand. It's like an e-commerce business model where when you are creative, you can just create designs and nice t-shirts, mugs and stuff like that. You have no risk, and you could start selling that. So
amazing.
Yeah, this is actually a really, really cool thing that many people like to get into that are not creative, and they have to hire people out. So if you're already creative, that's really awesome, because you can start with zero.
Totally. That is a great piece of advice. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Use that creative brain to your advantage.
Yeah. Really, people are waiting for your designs to be out there. They can't wait to have that in their room, on their mug, to make them happy to smile at it,
Totally.
Bring that gift to the person that's waiting for it already.
I love it. And personalization is so huge right now too. Like everyone wants things personalized. So
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate your time. I'm so excited to get this out there so everyone can listen and just, get inspired with how you built your business and how you've become so successful in this. It's awesome.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's a wrap for another episode of Intentional Harmony Creative Clarity. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation with Laura. She has so much inspiration and such a huge wealth of knowledge to share with you guys. Definitely check out her Facebook group. It's worth it. I'm in it as well. I learned so much from her, and I can't wait to see what you all do for those of you who sell online. You can see that this is a really growing industry, and if you need anything, Laura is your girl. She has helped so many people, so I highly, highly recommend you look her up and check her out. If you want more information on working with me, you can go to my website at KatieAnneCoaching.com, or you can find me on Instagram at KatieAnne.Coaching. And I just launched a group for women who are looking to get inspired, get clarity on their life, and boost their creativity. It's a group on Facebook. It's completely free. You can look up Intentional Clarity, or just shoot me a direct message on social media and I can invite you to the group as well. I would love to have all of you beautiful people in there. Again, I really appreciate you tuning in every episode. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on Intentional Harmony Creative Clarity.